Hi, welcome everybody. My name is Jeff Roten and I'm with Metro Vancouver Regional Parks. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm going to wait a few minutes while people are joining us. I know sometimes it takes a while for people to be able to log on to Zoom webinar. So while we're waiting, perhaps you can type in the chat box and just let us know who you are and where you are tonight. And when you do use the chat box, make sure you, in the to button, you click on all panelists and attendees. You'll see a little arrow where it says all panelists and click on that just so that everybody can see. Yeah, Jim, hi Jim. So that's just all panelists. If you click on the little arrow, it'll say all panelists and attendees. So we'll just wait a couple more minutes while more people join us. So again, as we're waiting, you can type in the chat box where you are tonight and who you are. So thanks for joining us. I feel like I should have some music here right now. Okay, well, maybe I'll get started now. Hi, everybody. So again, my name is Jeff Roten. I am with Metro Vancouver Regional Parks, even though it says Pacific Parklands Foundation on my little thumbnail there. And the reason it says that is because this webinar and the event is being hosted by Pacific Parklands Foundation. So just a few things, first of all. Before we get started with the webinar, I want to let you know, first of all, that you might see it's Maddie. I don't know, does it say Maddie? Is that what your name says there? Will be supporting me tonight. She is Maddie Edmonds is the program coordinator for Colony Farm Park Association. So she's helping out tonight. And we're very lucky tonight to have John Reynolds as the presenter. And just a few housekeeping items. So John is going to give his presentation. You can type in the chat box anytime, but we'll hold all questions until the end of his presentation. And I'm sure you'll have lots of questions, and he's more than happy to help you out. But before we get into that, and again, just remember that when you type in the chat box, to make sure, because I noticed everybody's doing the same thing, if you can click on the to box in the chat box, click so that it says all panelists and attendees. That way, everybody will be able to see your comments. Okay, so without further ado, what I'm going to do now, before I introduce John, I'm going to welcome Janet Antonio, who is Executive Director of Pacific Parklands Foundation, to say a few words. Janet?
Thank you, Jeff. Hello, everyone. So as we begin tonight, it is my honor to acknowledge that we live, work, and learn on the ancestral homelands of the Coast Salish First Nations. And today I extend my gratitude and appreciation for the opportunity to hold this webinar on their shared traditional territories. So thank you. As Jeff mentioned, I am the Executive Director of the Pacific Parklands Foundation. And the foundation was founded about 20 years ago by people who love parks, specifically regional parks. And so our mission is to raise funds and accept donations for Metro Vancouver Regional Parks in order to help people connect with nature, improve the parks, and expand the regional parks. So what this means is it's my job, which I love, to sometimes receive donations for specific parks or park associations. Other times we partner with the park associations and are able to help fund projects that they're working on. But more and more, we're excited because we have opportunities like tonight, where we can host and find other ways to support the community and the people who are around the park association. So we're very, very pleased to be here. And also on a personal note, I am very much looking forward to tonight. My husband is a biology teacher, so he loves to know the common and Latin names of plants. He doesn't care about birds or animals, only plants. And so on a few occasions, I've been able to dazzle and impress him by naming and identifying plants. So he usually corrects my pronunciation, but hopefully John will give us a few more tricks tonight so I can continue to impress at least my husband once in a while. So before we begin, thank you to Jeff and Maddie and Dr. Reynolds, and I know lots and lots of other people who've been working hard on the Snap and Share. Really appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to seeing what people find and discover and share in our parks. So over to you, Jeff.
Well, thank you so much, Janet, and thanks for supporting this project. So now it's my pleasure to introduce John Reynolds. He is a professor of biology at Simon Fraser University. He's also the chair of COSIWIC, which is the Committee on the Status of Endangered Wildlife in Canada. And he's an iNaturalist expert who has been supporting us in creating this project. So I'm going to turn it over to you, John, and remind Janet to stop sharing her screen so he can share his. There we go. Okay.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Jeff and Janet. I really appreciate the work that's gone into organizing both this webinar and especially the month-long BioBlitz that the Parks Foundation, as well as the various regional parks associations, have been responsible for putting together. It's going to be a lot of fun. And my remit for tonight was to talk mostly about iNaturalist, because that's the platform that people are going to be using to share their observations over the next month. And so I'm just going to give you some tips on iNaturalist. Even if you've used it a lot, I hope you'll see a few things that'll make it go more quickly and easily for you. And as Jeff said at the end, I'll be happy to take some questions and about anything to do with, we can talk about the month-long Snap and Share, or we can talk more specifically about details of iNaturalist. I'm sure I'll forget to say a few things about iNat, and so I'd be happy to take questions, and I'll go through the chat and any other direct questions at the end. So I'm thinking this will take maybe about 35 minutes of talking, 35 minutes, and then we'll throw it out for a broader discussion. So I wanted to just begin by, let's see if I can just show you this screen. Okay, and Jeff, is that coming through okay? Whoops, I just ended it. Hang on. Okay, so I hope
there you go. Looks good now.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. I can't see anybody, so I'm gonna need the odd thumbs up from you, Jeff. So yes, so this is this wonderful thing that everybody has sort of collaborated to put together, the Snap and Share program, and the objective is really just to encourage people to get out and enjoy, the outdoors, to connect with nature, as Janet just put it. And so as I've spent quite a lot of time the last couple of years volunteering in various ways with Metro Regional Parks, I've come to appreciate what an amazing network of protected areas we have here. And so this is just an opportunity to get out and celebrate what's there, learn what's there, and to share your interests with other people. Now, why iNaturalist? Well, here's a good reason why. It's because it's the world's #1 citizen science platform. And here you can see just in the last 5 years, the exponential growth in the use of iNaturalist. I'll tell you a lot more about that in a moment, but essentially it's a global observation platform. You can upload your photos and share with other people. So Snap and Share is literally what iNaturalist is all about. And so it's been going on, it's been around for about 10 years, but you can see it really just took off in the last few years. The observations are nearly doubling every year. And it's run by the California Academy of Sciences in collaboration with National Geographic Society. So it's got some strong firepower behind it. And one of the really amazing things about this is that all of the data that go in there, all the photos, all these observations, get converted into information that anybody can download and use. So scientists like myself can use it, for example, to see where threatened species might be, or to look at how climate change is changing distributions of species, that sort of thing. It's a great way to discover rare species, and it gets used quite often for example, by the Committee on the Status of Endangered Wildlife in Canada that I'm chairing, and we use that information and it ends up going directly into some of our status reports, which can affect whether species are given protection or not under federal legislation. So it's from citizens to science, often toward conservation is the idea here, and iNaturalist is just perfect for that. So what I'll do is I'm just going to end that and switch over. I'm going to spend the rest of my time directly on the website. So I'm just going live here, and I'm hoping that that's giving you a full screen of the internet, of their site. And here you can see the observations that have been made around the world. So these red dots here are examples of where at least one observation has been made. And you can see that it's gathered now 65 million observations. That's basically photographs. And that's of 1/3 of a million species, which have been contributed by 1.6 million people up here at the top here. And interestingly, another 192,000 people have helped identify other people's photos on the site. So what I'm going to do is take you through the 3 main buttons here at the top. So I hope you can see my cursor. We've got Explore, we've got Your Observations, which is exactly what it sounds like, and Community, which is going to be very relevant to the Snap and Share project. So let's explore a species. So I warned Janet I was going to ask her to say something. I didn't tell her what the question would be. But Janet, if you can just unmute and name any species of plant or animal from anywhere. Just name a species for me.
A huckleberry.
Huckleberry, okay. So I'm going to type red huckleberry. That's the one we have here. Did you see that it auto-filled it? I didn't even get a chance to finish typing it. It auto-filled it. So there's red huckleberry. So I'm going to hit that. And here is a map of red huckleberries. So you can see, of course, it's a Western Canadian species. It looks like there have been a few perhaps planted over on the East Coast. They don't deserve red huckleberries though. And so there's the distribution of red huckleberry as revealed by iNaturalist. And of course, it is very much a Western one. You can see it's concentrated, especially here, but that's also where, well, a lot of people are concentrated here. We don't have as many people up the coast looking for it. And I could click on, I'll just zoom in a little bit here. I could, I'll tell you what we'll do. Let's look at red huckleberries in Greater Vancouver. Let's zoom in. So under location, I'm going to type Greater Vancouver. Okay. So here are the huckleberries that have been uploaded, photographs from Greater Vancouver. And I can take any one of these and I could click on a random one. I'll just zoom in a little bit to just sort of see if we can get in a little closer. It's funny, I don't actually know if I've got my zoom button enabled here with this screen view, but essentially let's just hit one, see what we land on here. So I'll click on that one. So there it is. This is a photograph that somebody took on July 18th, 2019, and I can click on it and see it. So there you go. So this person who has made has made 54 observations in iNaturalist, saw it on July 18th, and I guess that's it there. There's a lot of other species in there. Another person has agreed that it's red huckleberry. So somebody hit agree. There's an agree button there, okay? And so you can agree with it. And if 2 people agree on the observation, it gets turned green research grade. That simply means that at least 2 people agree with it, and you have some confidence that the identification is probably correct. And so here I could zoom in and see exactly where this was. It looks like in the back and beyond here. And so this is gives you an idea of where the observation was taken. And so that's a sort of a permanent record of it. And you can scroll down and see other things about huckleberry, who else has been seeing them, for example, and so on. So that's an example of just a given species. So you can explore an individual species. We could also explore large, groups of species. So if I look at a filter here, let's look at amphibians. There's an amphibian symbol. So I'm going to, now we're just going to look at amphibians. Oh, I must have another filter on there. What is it here? Oh, it's because I left the word red huckleberry. There's no such thing as an amphibian called red huckleberry. I think that might be the problem. There you go. So there are the amphibians. And you can see the cursor happened to land on a western redback salamander. I could look at them all with this grid view. So this is the map view. There's a grid. If I hit the grid, there they are. Okay, so we have almost 2,000 observations in Greater Vancouver of 11 species of amphibians. And you can see which 11 they are. So suppose you can't remember the difference between a western redback salamander and a long-toed salamander. They're both, we have lots of records in regional parks for both species. There's a quick view. And if you want to see all the long-toed salamanders that have ever been observed, I won't bother, but we could hit that button and we'd see them all. So at a glance, you quickly, if you can't remember, oh, how do you tell a green frog from a bullfrog, for example? Well, this will remind you pretty quickly just by going to the photographs and seeing what the differences are. So it's a bit like a field guide in some ways when you're using this particular Explore button. So that's the Explore button. Lots more that you can play with. I won't bother. I won't do a lot more with that just now. But the next thing I want to look at, is your observations. So I'm clicking here, your observations. That is what it sounds like. So these are all things that I've seen or heard. This is, you can do audios. So I record birds often just with my phone. You can upload your audio from your phone or your laptop, and I'll talk about how to do that in a moment. So there's just an example of observations that you yourself have made. And this is another case where you could, if you have trouble remembering, you know, what are the, let's say, swallowtail. You see your first swallowtail of the year, and you're trying to remember how to tell them apart. So I could type swallowtails, and it looks like I've seen 8 species, but let's restrict it to British Columbia. So I've seen how many here in BC? I've seen 3. And there they are. Now you can remember, oh yeah, it's pale swallowtail that are out now, but also there's Western tiger swallowtail and there's Annis swallowtail, and you can see all the ones that you've seen. So again, the field guide aspect for jogging your memory is kind of fun. It's like a personal notebook. It's your field book, your lists of species that you've seen and also where you've seen them. So the last button I want to show you before we do an upload, and I'll show you how to upload in a moment, is community. So right here is community. And so the thing that is very cool is projects. Okay, a project in most cases is a geographical area that has been defined by somebody, which will grab all of the observations that have been made in that region and show them in one place. Okay, you see where I'm going here, because with the Snap and Share, there is going to be a project for this month-long BioBlitz. And so it doesn't have to be a place. You could have a project called the Mosses of British Columbia, for example, but it usually is. And so let's click projects, and I'm going to search for one. Let's, I don't know, where should we go? Let's go to Kanaka, Kanaka Creek. It auto-filled it because I was looking there recently. Sorry, Maddie, I should have gone to Colony Farm, I know. Kanaka Creek Regional Park. So there's a project there, which I created back in the day. And so here's the site for Kanaka Creek. So it has a banner photo. It has a little blurb about it. And if you read more, it will take you to the Metro Regional Park's official site for Kanaka Creek Regional Park. And here you can see the stats for the project. So we've got 1,400 observations, 336 species, and you can see who's seen the most species or observations. And this is the kind of cool thing. Here's the map of Kanaka Creek, and you can see where the species are. This basically shows you where there were also trails, and so people have been going along there, and you can look at recent observations. I could scroll through and so on. So the thing is that people who got their observations in here probably didn't, in most cases, even know the project existed. You don't have to join it. As long as you've mapped, as long as the iNat knows where the photo was taken, this project grabs it automatically, okay? And that will be true for the Snap and Share as well. So one kind of project that I want to show you is an umbrella project. So we'll go back to projects. And an umbrella project is what it sounds like. It nests many separate projects under one roof, under one umbrella. So let's look at the one for Metro Vancouver Parks. There it is. And so this one brings all of the regional parks and greenways together into one place. And so you can see we've got almost 50,000 observations. I wonder if we can hit 100,000 by the end of, by the middle of June when this is over. And there are all the species. You can see the observers if you want to see how many things that people are getting. This is the leaderboard. Burnaby Lake Regional Park is ahead a little bit of Pacific Spirit Regional Park. That's by observations. And I can see them all if I hit view more. So there are the greenways coming up too, right? They're all there. And I can click on any of these, by the way, and go straight to it and look at it. Let's look at by species. This is by observations. If you go by species, you can see Pacific Spirit Regional Park is way ahead of Burnaby Lake. I think they've got, well, they've got Camelson Bog for one thing, which has certainly got to help. Anyway, there it's ahead. And again, you could look at that leaderboard. And the map isn't very useful because they paste the names right on top of the parks. So that's not going to be terribly helpful. But if you want to see overall, if you got a new species for Metro Regional Parks, you could go on here and see if you've added to the species total overall for this particular umbrella. One thing I want to mention before I forget is that if you upload a photo of a species that is sensitive, that is susceptible to being poached, that people might want to poach or persecute, for example, a rattlesnake, not that we have rattlesnakes here, but in the Okanagan, then iNaturalist will automatically obscure the locations. So there's a list kept by the provincial government of species that need this extra layer of protection so that people can't look at some really threatened butterfly and go and catch it for their collection. So there's a certain amount of protection of these species automatically in iNaturalist. But of course, you need to be responsible about it. And I wouldn't put a nesting owl, for example, onto iNaturalist unless I obscured the location, and you can do that manually if you want to. So that's it for the 3 buttons I wanted to show you. There's more. You can see right there, there's more. And I won't work on that right now. What I want to do is show you where does this all come from. On every page of iNaturalist, there's an upload button. So let's upload some photos. This is a live warts and all effort here. So I'm going to hit upload, and you can see you can drag and drop. So this is how I like to do it. I take many photos with my phone. I download from my phone to my laptop, and then I organize them because I like to have them organized anyway. And then I upload on the computer. You can use the app on your phone. This is all free. You can download the free iNaturalist app, take a photo through the app, and hit upload from your phone if you want to. Then you have to do it one at a time. And you can wait until you've got Wi-Fi so you don't use up data to do it. But I find if I'm out and about, I use my phone only as a camera. That's all. I don't want to be looking at my phone for anything else. So I just use it as a camera. I download to my laptop, and I have a real camera, which I also download. And then that gets me to the point we are right now where we're ready to do an upload. So this morning I went to Barnett Park and took some photos that I could snap and share with you. So here are some photos. I don't know if you can see that particular screen. You may not, but what I've done is I simply opened them all up on my desktop, and I'm dragging and dropping them. So I hope you can see that. I'm dragging and dropping photos all at once. And I just let
We're actually just seeing, oh, there we go. Now it's showing up. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. I've noticed. Yeah, basically it just came from, I just kept a folder on my desktop. So that's where it came from. And so I've just dragged and dropped however many that is. Looks like it's 9 photos all at once. You could do 50 at once if you want to. And you just wait a second, and iNaturalist will deal with them and load up the information. And you'll see I don't have any names on these photos. I usually like to put names up on them before I upload, but I didn't because I want you to see if iNaturalist can identify them for you. So let's look at the first one. I don't know how well you can see this. This is a moth. photographed I guess yesterday morning, actually, near my house. It's an American lappet moth. Isn't that an amazing looking creature? So that's an American lappet moth. Now let's see if you didn't know that. Let's say you don't know that and you don't want to type the name because you're lazy. So I can hover my cursor over name, and I'm going to tap it, and it's loading suggestions. And you can see it says, we're pretty sure it's in this genus. And here are top suggestions. American lappet moth is its top suggestion. If it's not that, it's suggesting another moth, and they're all moths, of course. So it used artificial intelligence to recognize the identity of this moth. Now, I wouldn't just say, oh, it must be true, because sometimes it's wrong. It gets it wrong, right? One of the checks you can do is you can view it before you accept the name. So I'm going to hit view. There's my cursor. View. Let's just see. Hang on. Is this like a European species? And you know, well, there's a look at it, and that looks a lot like what I just showed you. And look, the distribution's solid. That's important. Sometimes, you know, it'll suggest something that just isn't found, you know, even in North America. So then you don't accept the suggestion. You just say moth or something. But in this case, everything's all adding up for me. And so that means I'm going to go ahead and click on it, and I don't have to type it. And you can see that it already knew the date and the time that the photo was taken. Okay. Interestingly, I took this with my big camera, and the GPS wasn't working. So normally it does. You can see these other ones have locations. I'll come back to this in a moment. Okay, let's just do a couple more. So I think you can see this, a goose nesting at the top of a pylon at Barnett. And of course, it's a common species, not the way you usually see them, but we ask iNaturalist, and it says Canada goose is the top suggestion, so we'll take it. Lots of you will know this one, right? Purple mahogany clam, common on our shores. So we'll ask it. It thinks it's a purple mahogany clam, so I'll take it. And here is a purple foxglove that is not yet flowering. And again, I'm just going to put it to the test. And yes, that's its top. See, it says if it isn't that, it's woolly mullen. Now, that's what I would have said. That's probably the one that is most often confused with it when it's not in flower. So that's great. I'm going to come back to the crab in a minute. I won't belabor this. That's just a common daisy, which it knew. And this one is large-leaved avens. And iNat gets it. Okay, now, if I click on here, you just see where that is. This says it's in Burnaby. How did it know it was in Burnaby? Well, because it used the GPS on my phone to figure that out. And so if I look, it's mapped them, and it's mapped them correctly to Barnett Marine Park. So I don't have to map it as long as my phone notification, location services was turned on. So I haven't typed a thing. Have you noticed? I haven't typed the name. I haven't typed the date. I haven't mapped it. Let's do this one. This is a tricky one. Many of you will recognize this as the Oregon version of the shore crab. And one of the ways, it's a small photo, but let's see how we do here. It's Oregonensis. Yes, yellow shore crab is the common name. So, and if it's not that, it's purple shore crab. That's the look I like. Okay, so it's correct. And this one is just a closer up view. And I don't know how, you probably can't see this, but I'm seeing some hairs here and on the legs. That's a killer feature that helps distinguish it from purple shore crab, which does tend to have purple claws as well. But that's okay. If it says a different name now, we're in trouble. Okay, thank goodness it didn't. So now it's two observations of the same species, of the same individual. So we don't want people to think there were two different crabs. So I click on one, and I click on the next one together. See, they're both green, and I hit combine. And now we have two photos of one species. See, if this was a plant, it'd be really helpful. One of the flowers, one of the leaves, maybe. Okay. Now, this pesky moth, where my camera GPS wasn't working, it's not mapped. Well, I can map it myself. Look, I'll just wander over, and I'll do it roughly. I don't have to show you exactly where I live, but we can just go over to Belcarra region. There's Belcarra, and you could zoom in, and so I could essentially just go to the location, say it was here, click on it, and it's mapped it. Okay. So I'm going to stick with that. I might move it later because that's not actually exactly where I am, but I can change it later. So I'm just going to, now I've mapped it. So if your GPS isn't working or something, you can map it yourself. Okay. And I just want to check one more thing. I think one of these was off. Was one of these off? Yeah. See, it got the geese in the wrong place. Again, it was that same camera. The GPS wasn't working well. So I know it was roughly in this area. So I'm actually going to move that one over to here. Okay. And whoops. What did I just do here? Put it there. And again, I can correct that later. So now they're all in the right place. And I hit submit and we're done. So we've now uploaded 7 observations. Now, I took my time because I wanted to show you the AR, the artificial AI, the intelligence, but I hope you can see that I could have done 50 in 5 minutes if I'd wanted to. It doesn't take any time at all. You just go through and verify the observations and you're good. And so then there they are. These are now in iNaturalist. Those are under my observations. So that's all that I wanted to do, other than take lots of questions, I hope, about iNaturalist. But again, just in the context of our Snap and Share, this is the project that has been set up for the Snap and Share. So your observations in any regional park or greenway between the 15th for month starting on the 15th will show up here. This is where you can see what you found and what other people are finding. And you can see this, it's got these wonderful thing. It's counting down the minutes and seconds until this thing starts. And if you do want to, you can read the blurb here. If you want to be eligible for prizes, then you do need to register. But otherwise, you don't have to formally join the project, but you can, and then you'll get notifications on the website, not by email. You'll get notifications when other people are uploading observations. So really, we're really hoping that you'll get out, and this has been a volunteer effort putting this all together, and with help from Jeff, and we're very much hoping that you will get out and use this as a way of connecting with nature and enjoying our parks, and again, just going in and seeing what else is out there. It's I found it very inspirational to get to know this wonderful system that we have here. And iNaturalist has often been my motivation for getting out and seeing what I can add to it. So again, I want to thank Janet and also Maddie from Colony Farm Park Association and various others who've been scheming to put all of this thing together. So Jeff, I'll unshare at that point, and I'll be happy to throw it out for anybody's questions.
Okay, I'm going to join you on the screen here, and I actually have a few points that I want to make that I think were helpful for me when I started using it. And first of all, the first one is make sure that you have location services turned on your phone camera, because I was having a problem. The GPS wasn't working, and that's because I didn't have locations turned on. So it wasn't recording the location. The other thing too that I do that I find helpful, there's a little section when you're typing in the information or auto-filling the information for your observation. There's also an area for notes. And I often put the park that I'm in and the trail I'm in just for me as a reminder, so that it's like, where did I see that? Because otherwise, if you just get the location, will just say, it'll just give you like Metro Vancouver or something like that. So I find that's helpful. The other thing too, also about using the app, is that sometimes, like again, I upload after I finish my hike as well. But sometimes if you're curious about what you're looking at, then that might be a time when you want to upload it at that time. If you want to know right away, like, what am I looking at? Yeah, and you did talk about combining photos, that it really is helpful, to take them from different angles. So those are just a couple of things that I wanted to mention. And now we can open it up to any questions. If anybody has any questions about anything about using iNaturalist. Maddie, you might want to mute yourself if you're on screen now and you want to help answer questions. So this is Maddie Edmonds. She's as I said, the program coordinator for Colony Farm Park Association. So does anybody have any questions?
I could answer if you like the one that Jack has asked
Oh,
about.
yes. Sorry, I forgot. I had a, yeah. Can you please? Yes.
Sure. So
Thank
the
you.
question was why my map includes the US, and Jack's only shows Canada. If you use inat.ca, as we both are, it will default to Canada. But there's a button on the left side that will say it's Canada. You can just click the X and then it becomes global. I think that would be the difference. And I'll just mention at the same time, inat.ca is what I would recommend you use. It's the same experience, same everything. Everybody sees it from around the world as inat.org. But this is the Canadian portal. And it's kind of nice because news about Canada comes through on it. And also for some of the threatened species whose locations are obscured, our provincial biologists can get access to those. So they know, for example, if they get a question about some development that people might want to do or some other problem that might happen on the landscape, then they know if the species are there. So it's, I always use .ca just because it's a more of a Canadian experience, but everybody around the world will still interact with you exactly the same way.
So if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat box. I don't see any questions popping up. Anybody?
Or
if they're not quick typists, can they unmute and go for it? Or
I will unmute. This is Janet. I'm just curious if you have any sort of stories that you want to share about things that surprised you or a rare animal that you just, didn't expect somewhere, that comes to mind.
Yeah, I have a lot actually. 2 years ago, I was teaching a course in Bamfield at the Marine Station, and I took my students to Carmanah Walbron Park, which is an amazing old growth forest. And we had a project. They were getting marks for using iNaturalist to learn to identify things. And we all went crazy iNatting in that park. And there was a millipede around, which a lot of us were seeing. It looked like a yellow spotted millipede, a little bit faded. And I didn't think anything of it. I put it up on iNaturalist, and an expert from the States said, actually, it's a different species. It's called the Olympia. I think it's called the Olympic Peninsula millipede, something like that. And it was the first photo that had ever been put onto iNaturalist from anywhere in the world. And the interesting thing was, although it was known from that general region, at the very same time, COSEWIC, which is the committee that I chair, was considering assessing that species as a threatened species. So, when COSEWIC saw all the observations that my students took, they realized, no, it actually seems to be pretty common, and it's in a protected area, so it's less of a priority for us. And so we downgraded it, and we didn't spend all the time and effort looking at it. And so it was a complete fluke. I misidentified it. Somebody else got it, and ended up saving, a conservation body a lot of trouble by knowing that this thing was far better off than we had previously thought. So that's
a great story.
One example. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
Almost all my greatest hits are almost always things I've misidentified. And people will correct you, and they're always positive. They're helpful. It's unbelievable how nice people are when they give you suggestions or click a link to see how the differences work and so on. It's just been a terrific learning experience for me.
Oh, and there are a couple of questions here, but I think maybe, John, can you talk quickly about research grade and how that happens? Because I don't think you mentioned that.
Yeah, research grade means that at least two people agree with the identification. And so if you say it's a Western sword fern and somebody else says it's a Western sword fern, then nobody disagrees, then as long as you're two in the clear, then it's research grade. And that just tells you that there's a little more confidence in what it is. If it's a fungus or a lichen, it's much harder to get them to research grade because they're hard to identify and not many people will go in on them. But I guarantee right now, probably the birds, the geese that I just uploaded, and probably half the plants I just uploaded 10 minutes ago, have probably already gone research grade. Somebody has already probably chimed in on them. So that's how it works. And you can disagree. And sometimes, the answers change and there's a dialogue. And, people bring in people from some other country who's an expert, and they tag them in, and you get wonderful conversations, and then eventually, hopefully, people figure it out. So it's as I said, it's a very, you don't need to be afraid to be wrong, and it's a very supportive, positive experience.
I've noticed that that many people are quick to confirm my observations, but the ones that never get confirmed are the mosses.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there's only a couple that that get confirmed, and the other ones, because they're also similar. So there are
difficult. Yeah, I can take a couple more from the chat. So first of all, Ron, I'm glad you could join us, Ron. No, iNaturalist is everywhere. It's anywhere at all, your backyard, you name it, it's global, not confined only to parks, but parks are taking advantage of it. And so, for example, the Metro regional parks are using it to learn what's in their parks, and BC parks are learning what's in their parks. So it's for everywhere. And Jack, you can you take a photo, you're asking, is internet data mandatory to use the app in the field, or can info be pre-downloaded to the phone? No, but not for iNat. Okay, so let me just make clear. There's two things I want to make sure I haven't confused people with. Use your phone to take, like a camera. No, just shoot, whatever your app is. Download to your laptop if you want to when you're home, and upload the way I just did. That's literally what that sequence was. But if you want to know what it is, there is another app by the same people, which is called Seek, okay, SEEK, and it's free. So Jack, what you want, I think, is Seek, because if you want in the field identification, that does download to your phone. I don't know how they fit it. I don't know how they do it. It's all computer magic to me. And so then if you have Seek going, you can literally just point your phone at the observation, and it will suggest right away what it thinks it probably is. So in fact, you'd be holding it this way. So you'd aim the camera at it, and it'll be telling you on your screen what it thinks it is. You don't even have to hit a button. It's not perfect, but it's a great field. It's a field guide in your pocket.
Are there any other questions or comments? I'm just going to mention that for me, I found that I have no biology background. I was an arts major in university, a master's in English, so no biology background. And now it's very cool because it's really enhanced my knowledge. And that when I go on hikes with friends, that somebody saw, I'm probably going to mispronounce it, but friend on a hike pointed to a mushroom and said, "Oh, that's really cool." I said, "Oh, that's a lichen agaric." I don't know if it's agaric or agaric, which it was, because I had seen it a couple of times before. So it was very cool. And, the large leaf avens, I'm seeing that everywhere now. So I've uploaded that. So it's a great way to really increase your knowledge, and just really, again, what we're really promoting in the Snap and Share project is to really be aware of the biodiversity around you. Because I'm taking photos, I'm looking for different plants and wildlife, plants in particular. I'm not so good at capturing wildlife, but with plants, just noticing, even on a hike on Sunday, that I go along this trail all the time, but there were new things coming up. It's like, oh, I haven't taken a photo of this before. What is this? So I'm just noticing so much more biodiversity. So that's just a little plug for what we're trying to do here.
You bet. And if I can add one thing, Jeff, that I forgot to mention, which is that, you can see all this stuff from the trails. And of course, we need to stay on trails anyway, in general. But even if you wanted to break the rules and go thrashing around and bushwhacking and trampling vegetation and stuff, you'd see fewer things. So, you can see everything you're ever going to want to see from the trail, and that's the way to do this, and it just gives you a lot more to see.
Thank you for mentioning that. So there are a few more comments and questions, but I just want to reinforce that it's really important to take photos safely, as it says on our website. Don't go off trail, don't disturb any wildlife, and don't remove or move anything. For sure, don't take anything from the park. So make sure you do that safely. And that's actually a bylaw in our parks, not to remove anything.
Yep.
So there's, let's
I've
see.
got a couple more questions
Yeah.
I can take on. So
Please.
Ron, yeah, common species are great as further records of occurrence. And, you know, I take lots of photos. Like I'm the king of Salal, okay? Because I like to, when I'm doing my surveys using it, and we're surveying provincial parks as well, I take them along the trail and so on. And sometimes you just never know if there's going to be a dieback or a disease or something like that. So Salal is a case in point. There was a concern a couple of years ago that there seemed to be a lot of winter kill of Salal in many places, and people wondered what was going on. It turns out it was probably just a weather thing and not a virus or a disease. But you just don't know which ones are the, we're establishing a baseline here. And so, yeah, people are keen to have common species, but only if it's fun, right? Like this isn't meant to be work. So, if you see something and if you like photography, as I know, Ron, you definitely do, and you like being outdoors, then go ahead and take the photo, but don't feel like it's work. It's for me, it's a hobby. I use it for work, but I do it because it's my hobby. And Jim has asked how it compares with Google Lens. I don't know. Maddie, are you familiar with Google Lens?
No, I've never used that before, so cannot comment.
Okay. Yes. I'm sorry.
You should try both of them and tell us.
I'm gonna look it up, Jim, because I am curious. And by the way, you notice that Maddie put the Seek app into the chat. You can get it from the Apple Store as well. So that's definitely worth. It's really good, by the way, as an educational tool, like with kids, because then they don't even have to upload. They can just ID things, and so nothing goes together with kids better than one of these telecommunications devices. And so Seek is a great educational tool. Lots of schools are getting the kids out using Seek.
Are there any other questions or comments? Oh, there we go. There's another one that just popped up here. That's is that Joyce? Oh, hi, Joyce.
Yeah. Hey, Joyce. So, we have 1-0 for iNaturalist here. Just pointing out that if you're not looking at the chat, just that there was something in an agricultural trap that they couldn't identify, and one person couldn't get it with Google Lens, but the other got it with iNat. I'm going to have to look at it Google Lens. Is there nothing that they're not taking over in Google? I think we should support. I'm going to stick with iNat and the academic nerds behind it.
Okay, well, if that's everything, then we'll sign off unless anybody else. I'll give you, just give you another minute in case anybody's typing right now. But again, as we're waiting, just really want to encourage everybody to participate in the project. You don't have to register for the project. You only have to register. I mean, of course, you have to set up an iNaturalist account, but it's only if you want to be eligible for the prizes. And I'm going to tell people right here that if you see the top of the leaderboard and you see John's name there, don't worry, he's not in the running for the prizes. He's been disqualified. And yes, Irene, we will be posting this recording on the Pacific Parklands Foundation YouTube channel. And I think if you were to type in Pacific Parklands Foundation, I think they might have 2 channels, but if you do Pacific Parklands Foundation, all one word, no spaces, that'll take you to their channel, and it'll be uploaded there in the next day or two. And yeah, so with that then, unless John has any final words, I really want to thank John for this webinar today and for all your support that you've done for this project. It's amazing. It's really great. And you're welcome to, there actually is, I think you can just email if you want to have any more questions. You can, there's an email address in your registration confirmation, events@pacificparklands.com. And you can just email there and I can forward those questions to John. So thanks again. Get out into the parks, everybody. Get those observations, take those photos, upload them to iNaturalist and have fun. this is a fun project. So thanks, Maddie. Thanks, John. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. And have a great evening. Enjoy the rest of the sunshine. Thanks again. Good night, everybody.